The moment the sun cracked over the rugged training grounds of Camp Ravenwood, a name whispered in elite circles of the military, something felt different in the air. The recruits didn't know it yet, but today their understanding of strength, discipline, and justice was about to be rewritten forever. Before diving in, make sure you subscribe to Grow for Justice because stories like this, real, raw, powerful, deserve to be heard. Now tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? It started on a Tuesday, a day typically reserved for the most brutal conditioning drills. Commander Jackson Briggs, a man as feared as he was respected, paced across the gravel with the aura of someone who believed no one could ever challenge his authority. He was tall, built like a linebacker, with the kind of voice that snapped the air in half. Veterans described him as a storm in human form, unpredictable, loud, and devastating. But even storms can be humbled. Among the new trainees stood Sergeant Claire Maddox, a 29-year-old decorated ranger who had transitioned into the Navy's advanced training program. She wasn't just strong, she was unbreakable, forged through Afghanistan's dust storms, Syrian night raids, and a personal history that had taught her one brutal lesson. No one gets to define her limits. She had sharp hazel eyes, tied back auburn hair, and the posture of someone who had learned to carry pain with dignity. The trainees whispered about her silently, not because she was a woman, but because of the quiet power in her movements. Claire had outperformed most of the class already. Push-ups, endurance, target precision, underwater breath training. She never missed. Some of the men hated it silently. Others admired it loudly. But Commander Briggs, he felt something entirely different. To him, Claire was a challenge to the old order, one he wasn't ready to accept. The morning began with a grueling 10-mile sand run in full gear. Some trainees were already crumbling by mile 6, but Claire's breathing remained even, her stride unwavering. Beside her was Corporal Ryan Hale, a lean, fast-talking soldier with a heart too good for the world he lived in. He admired Claire deeply, though he never said it out loud. "Do you ever get tired?" He joked between breaths. She didn't look at him. "I get tired when I stop, and I don't stop." Behind them, Briggs's voice thundered across the open field. "Pick it up. If Maddox outruns you again, I'll bury you all in the ocean myself." Some chuckled, some grimaced. Claire ignored it. To her, noise was just noise. They finished the run with Claire leading the pack. Briggs's jaw tightened. She didn't look smug or proud, which somehow made him even more irritated. He approached her, stopping inches away. "Sergeant Maddox," he growled. "You think this is a track meet? You think this is some showcase?" "No, sir," she replied calmly, wiping sweat from her brow. "Just doing my job." Something about her tone, respectful yet firm, rubbed him wrong. "Gear up for combat drills," he barked, walking off with unnecessary force in his steps. Combat drills were his favorite part of the day. The moment he reminded every trainee that no matter how strong they thought they were, he was stronger. But today wasn't going to go the way he imagined. The trainees were paired off, practicing defensive holds and takedown transitions. Claire trained with Ryan, moving with precision, fluidity, and restraint. She never used more force than necessary. Briggs watched her with narrowed eyes. After a while, he called out, "Maddox!" Front and center. She jogged over, stopping in front of him. "Sir, we're switching things up," he said loudly, so everyone could hear. "You're going to spar with me." A silence crawled through the field like fog. Ryan's eyes widened. "Oh no," he whispered to himself. He knew Briggs's reputation. When he wanted to teach a lesson, it was never gentle. Claire didn't flinch. "Yes, sir." They stepped into the center of the mat. Briggs cracked his knuckles, smirking like a man certain of his victory. Claire rolled her shoulders back, completely calm. "Rules are simple," Briggs said. "Don't die." Some trainees laughed nervously. The spar began with Briggs lunging first, swinging a fast jab meant to disorient. Claire dodged easily, pivoting lightly on her feet. His second hit came harder, a hook, which she blocked. The trainees murmured in surprise. No one blocked the commander's hook, but Briggs's pride flared. He picked up speed, throwing combinations meant to corner her. She deflected, sidestepped, controlled her breathing. Her calmness frustrated him. "Stop dancing and fight," he barked, She hesitated for half a second, a decision she would regret. Briggs took advantage of it, stepping in too close, grabbing her shoulder with one hand, and with the other, he slapped her. Not a training hit, not a measured strike, a full-force, humiliating slap. The sound cracked across the mat like a gunshot. Everyone froze that Ryan's face twisted in shock. "Sir," but Briggs raised his hand, stopping him. "She needs to learn respect." Claire didn't move for a moment. Her jaw tightened, her eyes darkened, and a slow breath left her chest. Not because she was scared, because she had fought her whole life to be treated as an equal, not as something weaker, not as someone who could be slapped into silence. Briggs took a step closer. "What, gonna cry?" Or he never finished the sentence, because in the next second, exactly 5 seconds after that slap, she crushed him. It happened so fast that most of the trainees didn't register the motion. Claire's body moved like it had been unsheathed from invisible constraints. She stepped in diagonally, catching Briggs off guard. Her left hand hooked his wrist, twisting with perfect leverage. Her right hand drove into his torso with a palm strike, so clean it knocked the wind out of him. Briggs stumbled, shocked. Before he could recover, she swept his leg with textbook precision, using his own momentum to flip him hard onto his back. The impact shook the mat. Gasps erupted around them. But she wasn't done. Claire stepped beside him, pinned his arm with a controlled lock, and held him immobilized, not hurting him, but making it impossible for him to move. It was not aggression, it was dominance. Every movement was within regulation. Nothing excessive, nothing fueled by ego. It was pure, flawless technique. Briggs struggled, humiliated. "Get off me!" Claire's voice was low but steady. "Sir, this position is only held when a trainee becomes physically unsafe. I am releasing now." She let go and stepped back. Briggs sat up slowly, rage and shock mixing on his face. But more than that, there was fear. He had underestimated her so thoroughly that he had been publicly dismantled in front of his entire training unit. Ryan whispered to the trainee beside him. She didn't even break a sweat. Briggs stood shakily. For a moment, everyone wondered if he would snap again. But then something unexpected happened. "Everyone back to drills," he muttered, voice unsteady. He didn't look at Claire. Couldn't. The rest of the day passed under a cloud. Briggs avoided eye contact with everyone, giving orders from a distance. Claire remained composed, even when trainees snuck glances at her like she was a legend in the making. Hours later, after the final march, when the others dispersed to their bunks, Ryan found her sitting by the shoreline, watching the waves crash quietly against the rocks. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded silently. "He shouldn't have done that," Ryan added. "That slap, it was out of line. Everyone knows it." Claire didn't answer immediately. "Men like him don't see people like me as equals. They see us as challenges, and challenges become threats." She paused, "But I didn't want to embarrass him." Ryan sat beside her. "But you did what was right." She looked at him with a faint smile. "I didn't crush him out of anger. I did it because I've been in situations where hesitation meant death. I reacted the way I was trained." She looked at him with a faint smile. "I didn't crush him out of anger. I did it because I've been in situations where hesitation meant death. I reacted the way I was trained." That night, as the camp dimmed and soldiers settled into uneasy sleep, Briggs remained awake in his office, replaying those 5 seconds in his mind. The humiliation burned, but behind the rage was something he wasn't expecting: respect. She had beaten him, yes, but she had done it with control, with restraint, with principle. The next morning, at dawn, Briggs did something he had never done before. He called the entire unit to formation. His voice carried across the cold morning air. "Yesterday, something happened that was not in line with Navy standards." The trainees exchanged looks. Briggs continued, "I crossed the line, and Sergeant Maddox showed more professionalism in 5 seconds than I did all week." Claire kept her expression neutral, though inside, she felt a shift in the atmosphere. Briggs turned to her directly. "Sergeant Maddox, you showed strength, discipline, and integrity. You are a soldier this unit can learn from." The trainees straightened, staring in disbelief. Briggs was not known for praise. Claire nodded respectfully. "Thank you, sir." Ryan subtly grinned behind her, From that day on, everything changed. Briggs no longer barked at her with hostility. Instead, he pushed her with purpose. He assigned her leadership roles during drills. He even sought her tactical input during strategy exercises. The other recruits followed suit, treating her not just as another trainee, but as a standard, the level they aspired to reach. Over the next weeks, Claire's reputation extended far beyond Camp Ravenwood. Officers visiting for evaluations would ask about the woman who dominated Briggs. Stories traveled, exaggerated, twisted, but rooted in that moment of truth. But the biggest change wasn't external. It was Briggs. He became quieter, more observant, more careful. People noticed he no longer used intimidation as a teaching tool. Instead, he used discipline, structure, and, for the first time, humility. One evening, after a successful infiltration simulation where Claire led her squad flawlessly, Briggs approached her privately. "You know," he said, voice softer than she'd ever heard from him, "I used to think strength was about control, dominance." She waited, but yesterday taught me something else. Strength is also restraint. You could have broken my arm. He paused. "You didn't." Claire responded gently. "Strength without restraint is just violence, sir." Briggs nodded slowly. "And respect without humility is just ego." They stood in silence for a moment before he said, "I'm recommending you for the advanced qualification round. You've earned it." Claire blinked once, surprising even herself. "Thank you, sir." Then she walked away, the wind carrying the faintest smile on her lips. Months later, when final evaluations came, Claire ranked in the top 3 of her entire cohort, the highest placement recorded for that batch. Briggs himself shook her hand at the ceremony, his grip firm, respectful, equal as she walked off the stage. Ryan approached her with the biggest grin. "You crushed him, and then you changed him." Claire chuckled lightly. "I didn't set out to change him." "Maybe not," Ryan said, "but sometimes justice doesn't shout. Sometimes it just takes one moment, one person to stand their ground." When Claire looked back at the training field, she realized something. What happened wasn't just a fight. It was a shift in power, in perception, in fairness. It was proof that respect is not granted by rank, it's earned by character. And that moment when she stood tall, refusing to be broken, refusing to allow injustice to pass silently, that moment would always define her. For everyone watching, make sure you're subscribed to Grow for Justice for more powerful stories like this. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's 5 seconds long and unforgettable.